Welcome back to day 3 of Aunt Debbie's Potholder Gifting and Ministry. Today we're going to make our third potholder, and if you are interested in learning more about the ministry that we use these for, I would ask you to watch video 1, and it will give you a more description of what it's all about. But this is a ministry that was developed by my 90-year-old mother, Millie Maxon, and she makes potholders and gives them to various organizations and people for all sorts of things. And this is a poem that she wrote to put attached to them. God made you like a potholder, beautiful in every way. In a kitchen you are exquisite, hanging on display. God is happier if you are useful, helping others along the way. He sees you as more beautiful when your edges begin to fray. And she attaches this to a set of potholders. And the potholders I am making this week are going to go to her ministry. Okay, today I'm going to teach you a third way of binding a potholder. And then you can choose whatever way you like. We're going to need a 10-inch piece of fabric for our backing. This is going to be a self-binding potholder. So we need that much bigger. We need an 8-inch square of Insulbright. This is Insulbright. It's an insulated batting, and I highly recommend it over just regular batting because it will protect your hand or your table from the heat. We're going to need 2 dark coordinating fabrics. These fabrics on the top, not the bottom one, these fabrics came from a line by Riley Blake called Gingham Sundry. I believe that's what it's called. And I'm using jelly roll strips. So they're only 2.5 inches wide. And then you need 8 of 2 dark colors. And then you need 12 of one light color. And you need a little strip that is 5 inches by about 1.25 inches that we're going to make our loop with. So we'll lay that aside for now. And we're going to lay aside these pieces. And the first thing we want to do is turn our light pieces over. Well, 4 of them we can lay aside. 4 of them we don't have to do anything to. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Lay those aside. These we want to mark a line from corner to corner. And then we want to take 4 of one of the other prints, it doesn't matter which one, and mark them. Okay, we will take the 4 marked prints and 4 of the other dark print, and I want to make sure I've got them all going the same direction. And I'm going to lay them with right sides together and pin them. One thing I did forget to do is because we're using a jelly roll, I can't make the square big enough to get 2 half square triangles out of one. It would take a 3-inch square, and I don't have, my fabric's not that wide, but I don't want to waste all this. So I am going to go over a 1/2 inch and draw another line, and I'm going to sew on both of these, and we'll cut down the middle, and we'll save these smaller ones for another project. Okay, those are ready to be stitched. Then we're going to take the rest of the light ones and the rest of the dark, there's 4 now of each dark ones, and there's 8 of the light ones left. I'm going to put that second mark on them. And make sure my directional print are all going the same direction. I'm going to pin these all together. So I can just sew all of this at once when I go to the sewing machine. So I'll finish marking and pinning these, and I'll see you at the sewing machine. Now that we have those all stitched, I'm going to cut them apart. I hope you saw how I chained them. That makes it go a little faster. Now I'm going to take each one and cut it right down the middle between those 2 seams. And what you're going to have left here, the small one, when you open it up and trim it, is a 1.5 inch half square triangle. And what I'm going to use these for is I'm going to make an exact duplicate of our pot holder, only it's going to be 4 inches big instead of 8 inches, just using these same squares, and it's going to be a coaster. So that way the fabric does not go to waste. But I'm going to lay all those aside. Now, before we put this together and into our little pattern, I want to iron them. Usually you would iron them to one side or the other, but this is a pretty complicated pattern. So I'm going to iron them open so I don't have to try to figure out which direction for all of them to go. That's probably the lazy way of doing it, but I'm going to do it anyway. The reason most people iron to one side or another is so the seam will be stronger. And in a quilt, I think that's kind of necessary. But in a potholder, I don't think it's going to matter. Boy, my iron's going crazy. I don't think I mentioned, but I starched and ironed all this fabric before I started. And I use Best Press, which is a starch alternative, whatever that means, but it works wonderful. I like the lavender scent. They have several scents and unscented. And I put it by the gallon because I use so much of it, and I put it in a spray bottle like this and use it. So I already did that ahead of time. I'm going to go over these one more time with the iron, just to iron them from this side. Okay, we should have 4 of each of these combinations. Now we need to put them together, and I'm going to have to look at a cheat sheet here because I get awfully confused. We bring back in these 4 plain ones, or light colored ones we didn't sew anything to, and I'm going to put them in the 4 corners. Then next to, let's see, I want two light ones next to each other, like so, but these fabrics need to be different. Then I'm going to take a fabric that has both of the dark ones in it, and I'm going to match it there, and take another one that has both of the fabrics in it and match it there. Then on the outside, I'm going to take one that matches this and has the light piece, and on this one matches this and has a light piece. Let's see. Then I need one that has both, and I don't want to match it this time. I want it like this. And I want to match these. And so once again, we have 2 light pieces together. On this one, I need both of these, but I don't want it to match either side. And I need one that matches this. Turn it this way so that the 2 lights are together. And those are our 4 corners. And these we're going to, like this. We're going to match this here. And match those there so that we have the 2 lights together. And that makes a nice star pattern. I'm going to put on my 1/4 inch foot so I can be as exact as possible. If you don't have a 1/4 inch foot or don't know what one looks like, I'll show you mine if I can. This is my 1/4 inch foot. It has this little flange sticking down So when you sew, it goes right on the edge of your seam and it helps you keep a perfect 1/4 inch. So I'm gonna put that on, and how I'm gonna sew these, I want to chain sew it. You can sew them however you want. If you want to make rows and then sew the rows together, that's perfectly acceptable, which is kind of what I'm going to do. I'm going to fold them like this. And I'm going to chain sew down this way. Then I'll open them back up and take the next row and sew onto them. Treble. So let's go to the sewing machine. Okay, I don't know if you caught it when I laid it out, but I had this one wrong. I had it turned sideways. So I had to rip it out and go back and fix it. And I'm checking where my points, it's going to be hard to tell how well they all line up until we sew the rows together. Now, for this, we can either press them, I'm going to go ahead and clip these. Press them open or alternate sides. And since I've already pressed all of these open, I'm going to continue the same way so everything is equal bulk. Now see, I have another one upside down. I'm going to have to fix that. Now I have it fixed. Do as I say, not as I do. Double check your layout before you start sewing them together. But even then, sometimes I pick up one and accidentally turn it and don't realize it. Now I'm going to sew the rows together. And we'll do one row at a time. So join me at the sewing machine. Okay, I pinned each of my seams lining up the center so that they would lay smoother. Okay, I've got that all sewed together. Now we need to iron these seams open. Okay, there is our perfect star, and I think all my points line up pretty good, and we should have about 1/4 of an inch out here past our points. I would take, and I will, just not on film, I'm not going to make you watch me do this twice, but iron all these open. Cut you 4 1.5 inch squares for your corners and put together the same design, only in a 4 inch. And you can use that for a quilt block. You can use it for a coaster, just whatever you want. And that way we don't waste our scraps. Now the next thing I want to do is trim this up to exactly 8 inches. I think I'll trim it before I put it on there. So, okay, I've got it lined up how I want to cut it. And I'm just going to trim off a little bit. That would have been easier to have trimmed it on a rotating cutting map, and I just didn't bring mine with me today. Okay, now we're 8 inches. We're going to center it on here, and I'm going to use a little of this 505 spray. Be careful to not overspray it. I got some on my cutting mat the other day, but it did wash off. But it looked pretty tacky till I got it washed off. Okay, and then we're going to center this in our 10-inch square, leaving an inch on all 4 sides. Well, I didn't. Had it closer to the bottom than the top. Now I'm going to take it over to the machine and stitch in the ditch. And probably it would be good to use a blue thread of some sort to match your background. It wouldn't show as much. But I quilted my sample with white thread, so I'm going to go ahead and use that today, so there'll be a matched set, and I can donate it to my mom's potholder ministry. Now this one's going to be a little more complicated to try to quilt without going over backing over any seams or cutting threads in the middle, but I'm going to start by doing this. And then I think I'll go at an angle and come back. Try to find a path through there where I start and stop on the outside. I couldn't find one completely last time, so we may have to start or stop in the middle of it, but that won't hurt anything. It just doesn't look quite as smooth on the back. So let's go quilt this. Ruby, be quiet. Okay, we've got it all quilted. Needs a good pressing. And then to do our binding, it's called a self-binding. I'm going to fold this over halfway, all the way around. Now, we're going to turn it up a second time and clip it in place. We're not going to miter our corners. We're just going to fold them and then fold them again. You just want to make sure you get a neat fold there on the end. Now I'm going to take it over to the machine and edge stitch it. And while I'm at the machine, I'm going to make our loop and stitch it on. So I'm going to fold both sides in towards the middle. And then fold it in a half again. I'm going to stitch down that edge, put right sides together and stitch across, then turn it right side out. And I'm going to stitch it in the corner of my pot holder. Okay, we are done with our pot holder. Give it another steam. And I do think it would have looked better with blue thread. It wouldn't have shown up quite as much, but the white's fine. And now I have a match set to donate to my mom's ministry. I hope you've enjoyed this and that you will come back again tomorrow for day 4 of my week of potholders for gifting and ministry. Please like and subscribe if you will, and I will see you again tomorrow. Remember, whatever you do, do it to the glory of the Lord.